Welcome to the Eye on Annapolis Local Business Spotlight. There are thousands of locally owned businesses in the area, some small and some large. Some you may know and others you don't. But one thing they all have in common is a great story, and we want to share it with you. Join us every Saturday as we talk to the founders, the owners, and the managers of local businesses you have come to know and love, and those you will come to know and love. Now here's your host, John Frenay, with this week's Local Business Spotlight.
It does seem to me like spring is really trying to get here because we're sitting outside at a picnic table outside of Rise Up Coffee in Severna Park with Julie Shay, who is the founder of Good Neighbors Group. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. Well,
excited for spring.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. It's been a long time coming, it seems, even though the winter wasn't too horribly harsh.
Yeah.
One thing I love about doing these local quote unquote business podcasts is that I get to discover these great new, to me, nonprofits. And you have founded the Good Neighbors Group, which is a 501c3, I guess based out of here up in the Severna Park area, but you really serve all over the place. I had always heard that good fences make good neighbors.
I was taught that as well.
But I'm guessing that may not be the case here.
It's good when you have an active dog like we had when we first moved here. And she couldn't jump that big fence. So that made us a good neighbor.
Funny story about fences. I was talking to Dr. Bob Graw, who has started Nighttime Pediatrics.
Okay. And
he owns the East Coast's largest buffalo farm up in Davidsonville. And when he first got his first buffalo, they delivered him. And he was like, well, what's that? He says, oh, well, we put a 7-foot fence up or something like that. And he said, and the guy laughed. They can jump up to 12 feet. And you don't think this
We're going to need a bigger fence.
6,000 pound or whatever they weigh buffalo can jump like that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, so my
spry.
Word. But, I've got to think about with a neighbor like the Good Neighbors Group. I mean, that sounds to me like it started really, really organically, maybe like from a Facebook page.
We predate Facebook.
Wow. Okay.
We're from the era where people actually opened their emails.
So you didn't predate email, but you...
Right, exactly. We were we'll be 20 next year.
Wow, okay.
And we started as a volunteer group, just looking at needs and connecting people. And then in 2017, I finally took the plunge and formed it as a 501c3. So we've been kind of doing this and evolving and morphing and now we're as solid as we've ever been. We really have a great structure. It came out of my heart and my head, but I have no business training. I was a physical therapist. I just see a need and I want to do something. And I found that my community felt the same way. They wanted to help. And when I connected with other organizations, I found that there's such a need so close by. And people knew of needs in Baltimore and they knew of needs in DC, but had no idea that people even closer, Annapolis and other areas, have these needs that all of us can help. And yeah, that's how it started.
I mean, we live in a very generous community in Anne Arundel County. Yep. I mean, and that was certainly, and I've said this time and time again, but it was evidenced by COVID when everybody came up and, people were struggling and they figured out, let's buckle down and figure out how to make this work for the businesses, for the people, for our neighbors that were struggling and everything else. The other thing I will say but for all of the wealth and prosperity that we see here. I mean, we think, we're here in the shadow of the Severn School and, Annapolis. Yes, it's the sailboat capital of the world.
Right.
I mean, you've got, you see a lot of this, but certainly the Community Foundation of Anne Arundel County puts out the Poverty Amidst Plenty report, which is coming out in a couple months. We have some really serious needs here, and some are, well beyond our pay grade, if you will. But there's so much that little things can make such a big difference in the life of individuals. And when individual lives are affected, communities are affected. And it really just has a snowball effect on that.
When you hear a story about, 1,000 people or 10,000 people who this happened to, and you think, oh my gosh, and that's like a huge number. And then they break it down and you hear about one person who lost one person and the effect of that. I mean, it's so powerful and it makes you so emotional when you know that one detail, the way people are rallying around the one person who was taken from Maryland and is in prison in El Salvador. That means so much more than hearing 250 men on a plane, right? And that's the basis of Good Neighbors Group. It's taking these enormous issues that we really feel powerless to and finding the thread, the thing that we can make an impact with and putting that out to the community so everybody can have a way to participate. And it doesn't cost money, can cost money if people want to, but it can be mentoring somebody, helping with a resume, creating a job opportunity. It can be you just got a new washer and dryer, but the other ones were working just fine. We can help you get it to a family in need through some of the nonprofits that we work with that will tell us about specific needs of families. I did spend some time, I call it the inner circle, of trying to help clients directly, and it really takes it out of me because I get so embedded and want to do more, and I can't do anything else, and I'm kind of useless in every other way.
There's only so much one woman can do, I suppose.
Yeah, and one family who's struggling needs a lot of support. And so we stay out of the inner circle, and that's why we have Helping the Helpers. And that's us trying to help the people who are doing the work, because there's limitations to what anybody can do based on the parameters of their work or their mission or their budget. And so we put it out to the community and say, we know of a family locally who's needs, uniform clothes for going to school, and is anybody outgrown their uniform things?
That can use it.
Yeah, and inevitably somebody will step up and someone else will step up and say, we can buy a couple shirts or, this and that, and other people have outgrown pants and that kind of thing.
That's wild. Well, the website is very simple. It's goodneighborsgroup.org, and go check that out. I was looking at it this morning, and I mean, you've got several different programs that you do, what you call donations before dumpsters, which I'm assuming falls into I just got a new washer and dryer, and now this one's going out by the old one's going out by the curb.
Right. And if it's still working, let us find a home for it.
Which makes all the sense in the world. I mean, we talk about recycling and reusing. I mean, I know that up in Baltimore, Second Chance Warehouse is really, done. I mean, despite some controversies going through there, but I mean, they've done a very good job of being able to reclaim a lot of things.
Yep.
And
Community
repurpose that.
Forklift and
I mean, and their work, the way they put people to work and everything else is just wonderful.
Yep.
And you said you've got the Helping the Helpers.
Yeah.
And that's, you look at, we'll say up in Glen Burnie, I'll throw one like Hope for All.
One of our favorite people, favorite groups.
Again, that was another pseudo small one that
out of Leo's basement into warehouse to bigger warehouse to bigger warehouse.
I know. And they're looking for their own one at this point.
Amazing,
so it should be, but when I went in there, I was just absolutely gobsmacked at the size, the passion of the people that are volunteering there to sort through the clothes.
Yep.
And as you walk through the aisles there, to your point is, okay, do you have some uniforms that don't fit your kids anymore and so on and so forth? I mean, I thought I was walking through granted I was in a warehouse, but it looked like I was walking through Target. There's shelves and it's like, okay, you want a size 9 shoe? Okay, well, here's what we have.
And yet they have pockets of things that they're desperate for. And so we try to put the word out for them. Always needing kitchen items, always needing linens and things like that. And they do run really short of clothing for children. So the whole school-aged component. And I see Green Drop driving through. It's very easy. Make it so simple to put a bag by your stoop and Green Drop comes and gets it. And I really work to keep those things local because...
What's Green Drop?
Green Drop collects things and then supports various larger nonprofits like the Red Cross and other organizations through these donations. So it ends up being a monetary donation from Green Drop to these organizations.
Okay.
And the stuff will go to thrift stores and if these organizations have their own thrift store and that kind of thing. But they've really nailed it because they will come through very quickly and take most of your things. And that's something that we fight against because that's so easy. And we don't have the capacity to make it that easy. But if we can catch people, the reason for Donations for Dumpsters name is you're renovating, you're moving, and the first thing that happens is the dumpster comes to your driveway.
Sure. I've done it.
Then there's so much stuff that's in there that's usable. This county doesn't have the same service that Montgomery County has, where they have a transfer station and you can actually pick up somebody's lumber that you can use some of the things before it gets landfilled or recycled. I would love to see a last stop where people could, before they hit the landfill, come through us. We could take the items that are usable, fixable, able to be diverted from the
Right.
landfill and get them where they should go for the least environmental impact and the most impact for families in need. Because a lot of those things I hate going to the landfill. I'm always seeing people dropping off things that I know could have a better home.
I am so guilty of that myself as well. I mean,
It's easy.
I've had a dumpster in my, in my yard or in
Yeah.
my driveway.
Yeah.
I have probably taken stuff to the landfill, and that I know that there's something like this. I mean, that my behavior hopefully will change. And I mean, it's just a matter of little steps.
Right.
I mean, way back when, I remember when recycling first came out. I mean, I'm older than you, but it was like, okay, so it was green glass and clear glass and
Right.
brown glass. And then you
Right.
look for the little triangle on the bottom of plastics, and this one didn't make it, and that, and it was separate bins. And, they made it easy for us
Too easy.
to recycle, which I know a lot of
Right.
it does not get recycled as it is, when,
Well,
your household recycling.
I think it does get recycled. Part of the problem is that single stream recycling, the numbers go up of people who recycle things. The volume goes up, but the quality goes down
Right.
because glass breaks on paper. Now you've got contamination. And so the money that they can get at the market for these items, you need the market,
Is
right?
sure.
You need the market to buy these things or there's no way to keep it circulating.
Right. And I do love that as we've evolved, I mean, we are more eco-conscious, certainly, of the bay and our waterways and our air. I mean, you look at the move to EVs and to, electric boats at this point and everything else. And as we evolve, it's just a lot of little things make a huge difference. So if you are renovating your house, if you are, redoing your kitchen,
Yeah.
there's probably, whether it's cabinets, whether it's appliances.
Yep. I gave all mine away. We renovated our kitchen. We also renovated my mom's house, and almost nothing went to the garbage. We had even the styrofoam packaging that came with some, I can't remember now if it was cabinetry. It has these little foam corners. Well, there's a guy who buys those foam corners from Amazon, and I was connected with him by the EPS recycling guy because now instead of buying them, why not just reuse them? And so he took a whole bag of those things. The carpeting was recycled, and somebody came through and picked up my carpeting for recycling. Gave away toilet, windows, siding somebody used on their shed. And I know this is a passion project for me. This is not everybody's thing. But it shows you there is a need and there's a way to do it. And I have to say now, so I almost feel that Good Neighbors has been outmoded by Facebook and the Buy Nothing group. And that's great. It's harder to get people's attention now. We're all flooded with emails.
Sure.
And we're social media gone bananas. But the Buy Nothing has really, it's an international
Movement.
Yeah, that of people giving things away to one another and asking for things that other people might have. And that has diverted, I'm sure, a lot.
Well, the axiom has been around forever. One man's trash is another man's treasure.
Totally.
So, and
Totally.
it's so true. I mean, between the estate sales and everything else, and it goes through there. I mean, another initiative that sort of interested me was One Clean Block that you got.
Yeah, that's a newer thing. I was driving and just saw the amazing amount of trash on the side of the road, and it makes me crazy. Every exit off the highway, it's such an eyesore. And I've lived in Germany for a few years. I had lived in Germany for a few years, and streets are impeccable. It would never happen there. And the highways are impeccable. And I just thought, if we each took responsibility for one little area, it could really add up and make a difference. And I've kind of tweaked it so that I'm really looking more at storm drains, because ultimately the debris and the trash on the storm drain is
Sure.
the rest is the eyesore and it's not good. But the storm drain, when we get flooding and, the sewers back up and whatever's, debris and trash washes into our rivers, into the bay. And we get algae blooms and everything else that, all the negative effects. So that's still in development, trying to find a great way to reflect all of the blocks that people have signed up for on the website. And I just have not found the right person to help me figure out the best way to make that show up. But we do have probably about 20 blocks and storm drains in the area covered.
That's wonderful. I mean, I know in Eastport, they've got Bumper Moyer has started the Eastport Neighborhood Cleanup. I mean, he's got a name, but they will go out and they'll take a block
Mhm.
and they'll weed it and stuff like that. I mean,
That's great.
I'll sit there and argue to the end that it's the city's responsibility to be painting the
Well,
curb
that's
and
the
stuff like
thing.
that. But that's
I agree, and I do feel like, it's really not our responsibility, but it helps us, and until somebody else is doing it, it still needs to get done, right?
It does, but I mean, he goes out, he'll paint the curbs. I mean, he's put signs up. They've had
Amazing.
signs made, welcome to Eastport and stuff.
Oh, I love that.
It's a great community effort,
Mhm.
as is everything that with the Good Neighbors Group is. I mean, you get out there, you volunteer, you're working together for good.
Yeah.
And you talked about when you were just driving around, and you kept seeing all the trash and everything else. I had a sort of a flashback with Susan at Save Our Trees.
Yeah.
And
Love
she
them.
says, and she's like, yeah, I was driving down and I noticed all this English
Mhm.
ivy. And she told me the very first time I met her, she's like, now that I've told you about it, you're going to notice it and you're not going to be able to drive anywhere without
Yep.
like picking out that tree and that tree
Yep.
and that. And she's so right.
Yeah.
And
You can't unsee it.
as you look around you, as you look at the trash, as you look around your house, as what might be able to be recycled or repurposed or reused,
Right.
it starts to glare out at you.
Right.
You really do start to understand that.
Right.
And it's not just about making sure that the paper goes in the recycling or the plastic goes in there. It goes much beyond that. And it's much
Right.
simpler.
Right.
I think that, that green drop is very cool.
It is. It's great for if there's things you can't find a home for and somebody else can use them and they come right by. I can't work that fast.
Yeah.
But on our website, we do have a lot of resources. So we have an area where you can look at, I have something to rehome, or I have something to recycle, or I want to volunteer. And it gives you, it's not about Good Neighbors. It's about plugging you into these other places, because we want to market for these great organizations who are doing great things, and also educate people about resources around and who does need these things. School supplies and, like I said, linens and clothing and everything else. And so we try to do the work ahead so that then people can just use that as a resource and go and get involved. And once you see some of these places, once you see Orphan Brain Train, you see what Charting Careers is doing, you see Hope for All in action, you're so impressed. You want to tell people and you want to help. And you want to,
You really do. And because Match.com was already taken, your website is goodneighborsgroup.org.
That's right. We are the matchmakers.
Who are your neighbors? I mean, where do you serve? I mean, I know that you briefly mentioned, DC and Baltimore, and I'm assuming that probably not DC, probably not
Right.
most of Baltimore, but maybe a slice of it.
Right.
Similar to, I know Hope for All said that they really try to focus on Anne Arundel County, but
Right.
you can't really ignore the Brooklyn part of,
Right.
the Baltimore part of Brooklyn Park.
Right. And because I'm here and I know the most about here, it's based out of Severna Park. But I would say predominantly Anne Arundel County. But there are some other areas we network with other people, and probably for good or for bad, I have a hard time drawing those limits. If you reached me from somewhere else, I would do the research for you and find out, what are good resources near you. I had a close friend who was in Honduras, who's now in Guatemala. And especially when she was in Honduras, it was actually easier than when she moved to Guatemala. But we've done a number of projects with her where wanted to show that from here, you can make a huge impact on somebody in another part of the world. And we were able to buy mattresses and beds with a goal of keep getting all the kids in this one village off of the floor. So we could get them healthier. We helped build a clinic. We put an event on here when she visited, a fundraiser, quarter auction, and raise money for her so that she could do things in her community, pay teachers, build this clinic, get medicines, all these things. Now she's changed her direction. We don't do much with her, but we do have my administrative assistant who lives in Nairobi. And so now we have a Good Neighbors Nairobi. And again, the point of that is to show people that even from here, there's a tremendous effect you can have on other people in the world. And so this is somebody we really trust, who's building a resource center in his area to train other people to do back office work for others. And so he's building out his community and training them and doing, so yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, we are really a global global work.
So
That's
much.
sort of a
Yeah.
and you talk about being able to help somebody else. I know a friend of mine started a nonprofit in town called Medicine with a Mission,
Mm,
and when you go to the dentist and they give you the whole tray full of tools and stuff like that, or even in surgery, they give you all the tools that you need, but a lot of times they don't use them all,
yeah.
but they're thrown away, they're
Yep.
destroyed. You look at medicines
Crazy.
that have an expiration date of 2 years, but really they're manufactured for like an expiration date of 6 years.
Right.
And that's, the FDA. And I get that we want to be the safest and
Right.
and conscious and everything else, but there's so much waste that goes there. And what he does
Yeah.
is he collects through, primarily medical equipment that
Mhm.
is either outdated because, the latest technology coming out in September, of course, we can't use the one that was,
Right.
the August version.
Right.
So they're taking these perfectly good, whether they be tools, supplies. If you turn around and you get in surgery, I think they give you like a big, huge case of like gauze
Mhm.
pads in individual packets. But once you open up that main thing,
Not sterile anymore.
well, it is, because they're
'Cause
wrapped
it's still in
individually,
the
but
okay.
but in their mind, it's not. So there's like,
Okay.
fine, give me this, and we'll send it off to some country that needs it.
Right.
Which is very similar to
I wonder if
what's
they collaborate with Orphan Grain Train.
Orphan Grain Train.
Yeah, because Orphan Grain Train ships containers to other countries. We have a sewing program within our within Good Neighbors Group. We kind of partnered with Stitches of Kindness, which Wendy Presslin started, and now it's kind of a program within Good Neighbors Group. And we have projects with Orphan Grain Train to make feminine hygiene kits, and they're really beautiful. So the girls don't have to miss school and work and life because they have their period.
Right.
We all are here because a woman had her period.
Right.
So it's insane.
Or
that
didn't.
it's well, then we're not here. Yeah, good point.
It's there's a lot of that's going on here. Certainly the Rotary has their books for international goodwill, which
Love
sends out.
that. Yeah.
We are really a global thing. And because I'm such a slacker and because I had to rearrange this a couple different times to get here, we're not going to be able to really, we can promote it, the Earth Day Festival, but we're not going to be really talking about it as if it's happening soon, because it is.
Right.
But this has been going on for 20 some odd years.
23 years. It was started by people who formed the Watershed Action Group. And it was Jim Brennan was one of those people, and he kept it going through being at various schools and St. Martin's. It was moved around until it was at the middle school and then the high school. 2017. So Jim had stepped out already, and I was helping Chris Myers organize it. And she had been with it for many more years than I was. But because it was always housed at schools, we were able to get the schools more involved. But it was challenging to process payments and various things through the schools, and we knew that it needed a permanent home, not to be moved from school to school. And it just had grown and grown. And then the new high school was built, and we had it there. But in 2017, when we decided to officially become a nonprofit, it was the perfect timing to bring Earth Day Festival into Good Neighbors Group.
Okay.
Because we were both part of that.
And that's become a signature event for you.
It has. So from 2017, it's been Good Neighbors event. Good Neighbors is the host. And the school system changed ways that outside groups could use their facilities. So we moved to Early Heights, and it's been a great relationship.
Well, Early Heights is it's a great location for it.
Yeah.
Certainly they have the food truck thing, and they also have the fair and everything else.
And we get it. There's, I forgot how many 100,000
on
cars
Ritchie
or
Highway.
something that pass by. And so, we can capture people that way.
Well, that is always right around Earth Day, which is like that third week in April.
We push it to the weekend after.
Right. And what all is involved there? You got tons of vendors that come in. You've got plenty of opportunities to learn how you can support the Good Neighbors Group, but also to recycle and to have less of a bad impact on the globe that we live in.
And learn positive things. We've got student exhibits who are always inspiring. We've got all of our nonprofit friends who collect various things. Hope for All, Orphan Grain Train can't make it this year, but they're usually there. And so people can use us as a depot to get rid of things that are taking up space in their home that we know other people can use. Yeah, all kinds of recycling opportunities, educational opportunities, animal rescues, all the environmental groups in the local area. the river organizations, and yeah, it's just a
It's just a
fun time, and you
huge.
can always learn something. We have a plant sale now each year. It's our second year doing a native plant sale, and we have people on hand who can tell you about how to care for those things and what the benefits are. And
Well, it's interesting as I learn more and more about it. I mean, I've learned. I went through leadership Anne Arundel, and I learned how bad the non-native plants are and the invasive species are.
mm,
Actually, later on today, I'm going to be talking with the Maritime Museum
oh,
because they're having a catfish cook-off,
the blue
and
catfish,
because of that invasive
right?
species, and certainly we had a while back we had the snakehead, what I'll call a scare. I mean, we all thought they were going to be growing feet and running across Crane Highway in Crofton from from Prince George's County all the way over here. It was the zombie apocalypse, but uh, they've been able to manage them, and they're quite the delicacy from what I understand.
Yeah.
But how did you get involved? You mentioned that you were a physical therapist by trade. I mean,
Yeah, I was a physical therapist. So I graduated in 1995, and then my husband, and I got married in 95, and he was in the Air Force trainings. And
hence Germany.
then we were from San Antonio to Germany to Panama and then back here, and to Panama before Germany, because that was a real eye opener to go from a place that was less organized to a place that was quite a bit more organized. But I learned things in each place, and one of the things I learned in Panama was how people can make something beautiful out of something that someone else disposed of. I mean, all of the Clorox bottles cut off with flowers planted, and even a simple cinder block house has flowers everywhere because they're planting them in these containers that were somebody else's junk. And when the army base was closing and leaving Panama, it was 1999, and I was taking on the task of rehoming things that otherwise were going into storage or getting thrown away. And storage, I just picture kind of like the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark with the big, never to be seen again. But there were school programs in the community that were absolutely in need of these. I was a pediatric physical therapist, and so we had all these toys and educational things, and they were great help to people in the community. So I was helping do that. And then in Germany, we had composting at the curbside and recycling, and each thing separated. And just looking at the communal spaces. Not everybody has a tennis court and a swimming pool in their own backyard, or a trampoline or a playground set. They're in shared spaces between two villages. You'll have this common ground. And then coming back here, it was just kind of eye-opening just how much stuff we have and how isolated people are in their own yards, where, they each have their own version of one of those things. And instead of coming together, as a group to do it. And so when I came back and practiced physical therapy, insurance had really kicked up and changed the field quite a lot. And
Insurance
I was
ruins
just
everything,
not,
don't they?
yeah,
It does.
it was not I tried it for a good solid year or so, and it just was very unsatisfying. And at the same time, I had had my second child, and I was part of a mom's group and saw that all these well-meaning people are getting together socially, but I know that we all have so much stuff. And I started exploring. One person had told me about a women's shelter. And so we made a couple of laundry baskets full of essentials that they needed. And then it kind of spun from there. I started becoming the person where people would just drop their crap on my stoop. And I called it decrap. They were decrapitizing.
Okay.
And I would find homes for things. And it got to a point where my family couldn't take it anymore. I mean, it was fun sorting through and stuff, but especially my husband couldn't take it anymore. And then, so I got tired of also being the one to email my neighborhood and say, I'm collecting this. I know of this need, that need. I wanted people to come to me when they wanted to because I'm insecure.
Well, that's just a behavior change.
Yeah. I'm insecure that way. And so then I created this website, and people could subscribe and that kind of thing. And so at some point, somebody was donating. I had connected with a teen shelter, and somebody had teenage clothes to give me, and they ended up giving me fags of their ex-husband's clothes. And he was a very large guy. And later that afternoon or something, I went to touch a truck with my kids, and I met Debbie Wood, and I said to her, and I'd been frequenting the Children's Museum,
Right.
and I said to her, "Do you know anybody who could use these?" And she said, "Do you know Larry Griffin? He's got a lot of big guys around him."
Okay.
And that's how I connected with Larry Griffin and We Care Friends, and I learned more and more about the needs in our local area, and then volunteered with him for a while, and then Good Neighbors grew, and I kind of
And here we
parted from
are,
there,
sort
and
of like a
here we
runaway
are.
truck.
Yeah, and I think about him almost daily, the impact he made on me.
Larry was probably probably the biggest loss we had last year. Last year, yeah. And
But he was
just
lost before that, unfortunately.
well, yeah,
But
with Alzheimer's, but it's
yeah,
I mean, just I don't know whether it was his smile or his heart that it was the biggest
the
thing when he walked
hugs.
into a room.
Oh my God, the hugs.
um, he is just yeah. I
He was
mean,
real. He
we
was so real. And the thing that he and I connected about was es that we connected the most. We had our first phone conversation for, like, an hour and a half. He was shucking oysters at Carroll's Creek, took a break and was talking to me, and just the idea there's something that needs to be done, so let's just do it. And that's what he did all the time, for good or for bad. He was always kind of turning on a dime to solve a problem, and, but just yeah, full of compassion.
yeah, no, that was a tough one. I mean, Vince Leggett was also another tough loss, and
Yeah.
you know, it wasn't good. And I am getting a little bit off topic, but I am somewhat worried about philanthropy and volunteerism and that mindset as we move into the next generation. You know, the Gen Zs and the alphas and the betas, I guess they're all called
Whatever
now
they're
at this
called,
point.
yeah.
You know, and I do hope that it continues. I mean, we are a very giving community. We are a,
Yeah.
you know,
We
and
need to put the time in now so that we can set the example and get people into volunteerism early. One of the things that I want to build out, and it's been a thread on the site, but it's not a strong one, is more opportunities for children and families to get involved, because a lot of opportunities don't start for them until they're 16, you know. But what can a 10-year-old, what can a 9-year-old do? And so we've connected with, well, there's Kid Change Makers, which two boys, young boys, started because for that exact reason. And they have a fantastic group. They always come to our Earth Day, and we have some collaborative projects with them. And the Sunday Kids, which is a branch. There's a local branch, Chesapeake branch, and they get kids involved super young. So we did a sewing and handcrafting Sunday with them over at Park Books
Mhm.
community space, and had, I don't know, 30, 40 people
Wow.
involved, kids from 3 to 11. And we set it up so there was an activity that anybody could do at any age. And it was all for giving back to various local nonprofits. We made blankets and deck to me pillows and made dog toys. And there's something for everybody to do.
Everybody.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I know that, you know, a holiday tradition for me is on Christmas morning before any gifts or anything like that. My kids and I go to Lighthouse and cook breakfast
Oh, nice.
with a group of people, and it started that very young,
Yeah.
and to the point where they were like, "So kind of shouldn't be in the kitchen," you know, young type thing.
Right.
And even now, as they're flown and grown, if they are coming back, they're like, "We're going to do that, right?" Which
That's
is really kind
cool.
of cool. And there was
Yeah.
probably one of the greatest lessons my daughter learned there was she was slinging the, I don't know, sausage or potatoes or whatever it was from behind the
Slinging
thing.
hash.
And she looks up and there's a classmate of hers on the other side of the counter.
Oh.
And they both exchanged this look of like, what the hell are you doing here? No words were spoken, but we had a
Wow.
great conversation afterwards about that. We don't know what the situation is, but there
Yeah.
is a need out in the community that
Yeah.
that everybody's situation is different. And let's be real. I mean, we're all not too far from
Mhm.
being on the other side of that line, whatever that line may be.
Right.
Well, you are like somewhat of a native. I mean, you've been here in Smyrna Park for quite a while.
20, yeah.
Where's your favorite place to eat?
Well, I'm vegetarian.
You're one of
So,
those.
and my daughter's vegan. So we
Okay.
always have an eye for places that can feed us well.
Well, then,
So,
because I get a lot of questions that ask about vegan and vegetarian places. Are there any good ones up here?
Cafe Mezzanotte will cater to your to your
Needs.
to your needs. Asian restaurants are
Yeah.
usually quite good at that. And but I would love to see some more. I'd love to see. I'm trying to promote the message of, you may not crave a vegan meal when you go to a restaurant, but you're somebody in your family who you're taking there might actually, and so a restaurant needs to accommodate everybody.
It's funny. I live in the wrong state, but I don't eat seafood. And the joke
Don't
is
either.
that if it lives in, on, near, or under the water, I'm not going near it. And it's funny, my girlfriend, she's always like, well, we got to find some place and I'm like, no, don't worry about it. I said, I will go to the best fish house
Yep.
anywhere.
Get the baked potato,
And I'll
the
find
corn.
something. I'm not going to
Right.
leave there starving. I'm not going to
Right.
eat fish, but I'm not going to leave there
Right,
starving.
right.
And, you look at the little things. I know Carroll's Creek, not so recently, but they went nut free. And I was talking to Jeff about that, and he was just telling me it was born out of his son, who has a really severe peanut allergy to the point where they can't fly on planes just because of residual peanut dust from 30 years ago.
Right. I think when it gets
And-
personal, then people make
Well,
they understand and make the effort.
It truly isn't. I mean, they said they travel on vacations they bought an RV to travel on vacations because they can do that. And they went totally nut free. He said how difficult it was to do it. I mean, the certifications, and you've got to look at your vendors. And it's like, okay, fine. I'm buying a sack of flour. Did that sack of flour make something else in that same
Right.
processing facility?
Right,
I mean,
right.
and it's not just a matter of like, okay, don't order any more peanuts.
Right.
And he said it was to be certified and everything else. And he said, but the interesting thing is that aside from the PR beyond it, nobody noticed.
Yeah.
Nobody had any idea that it was.
Yeah.
That this
And
is
adding one dish to a menu that's,
that can
that's
accommodate a vegan
vegan
or a
right.
vegetarian.
It's not a big deal.
And you have everything in place for any restaurant to accommodate that.
Right.
And we do need to be a little bit more accepting of everybody in every way.
Yeah.
Well,
Can I add one thing?
Sure.
For back to our helping the helpers conversation, and people have observed that people in wonderful cars show up to food pantries, and I've seen threads on social media where people are attacking those people, shaming those people, and one of the people that we helped early on was a woman whose husband had left her for somebody else, and she had put aside her career to raise their daughter, and he was not paying alimony or child support, and she had a nice car, and at some point she was going to be living in that car, and she would show up to a food pantry, and she would look like every suburban well-to-do woman in a really nice car and really needed help. And one of the things that I found is that people in this area who really, really need help, who have not learned of the resources around them, are really stuck, and they need help getting plugged into the resources. So that's one of the things that we do when we learn about somebody who has a need. We'll get messages from friends or various people will reach out to us and say that there's a family in need. And we first try to plug them into the existing resources so that they can get help by true professionals. And then we try to fill in the spaces.
True.
And you don't know what people are going through. You really don't. I mean, our imaginations are limited to understand that kind of thing. And so just being compassionate and listening to people's needs, that's something that one person can do, right? If just looking someone in the eye at the grocery store and saying a sincere hello, doing those little things, it's amazing how impactful you could catch somebody on their worst day and do that and turn something around for them. We need to just be there for one another and be real.
We live in a very wealthy world, and I don't mean that in terms of dollars
do.
here. So, I would suggest, goodneighborsgroup.org is a good place to start. And again, it doesn't really take a whole lot.
No, it doesn't.
But Julie, how can we help Good Neighbors Group? I mean, we can volunteer.
Certainly can volunteer with us and any of our programs. We can also plug you into other volunteer opportunities. We do have recurring donors. We don't write grants. We do have various events, which would be great to have people support. They can follow us on social media and get our weekly email every Thursday morning. I send one email. And our recurring donor program is really any amount, but it's a set it and forget it kind of a thing. And that means that we don't have to spend so much time on fundraising because we know what we can expect in terms of budgeting. And the vision for the future, is to have space. And as you know, this area is very expensive. So we have not found the ideal space or something that we can currently afford. We could build toward affording something for sure. But
What
I
kind
would
of space are you looking for, like a transfer station?
exactly a transfer station / makerspace, because we'd like to teach people how to fix, repair, um, gain some skills. It could even be soft skills job training for people. And we want to capture the things. So these different nonprofits are open very limited hours. They have limited volunteer staff, understandably. Orphan Grain Train has very limited window on Tuesdays in 2 different sections that you can drop things off. Hope for All Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 9:30. Who
Right.
can remember?
Right.
Who can get? So a lot of times it's just too much. If we could serve as a place to pre-sort and ready things and direct them where they need to go, and we could be a one-stop. People come in, they can drop things before they go to the landfill, instead of the landfill. We can also divert a lot of waste that is just, as an example, we have several alkaline battery collections around the area because it's recommended you just throw those in the trash, but we don't think that's the best option. Several of our business partners have collections for alkaline batteries, and we just dropped off 170 pounds of alkaline batteries. We bring them to Staples, which will take your batteries. So we want people to know about these resources, but Staples is in Annapolis, and if that's too far, then you can drop them at the UPS store in Severna Park. You can drop them at Park Hardware. We're supporting the local business. We're diverting things from the landfill. We're getting them to places to get processed. And so if we had a space where we could kind of collect these things, let them gather until we have enough to deliver, but capture these things from the community and help the local nonprofits because they can come one time a month, say, and take a whole bunch of stuff instead of.
That makes sense. I mean, so Hope for All backs up to your spot and loads up their truck because it came back empty from Annapolis or wherever it is and takes it back up to Glen Burnie.
It's more efficient for them. And it solves the problem of people being in a hurry to get rid of things because we can be a place where people can drop things. We also collaborate with my friend Vanessa Bright, who has Maryland Reentry Resource Center. And our vision is to have a place where where we could both operate. And the Good Neighbors portion can serve also as a training facility, and we can employ people from Maryland Reentry while they're figuring out their next steps. But they can help, operate this entity. So kind of a Good Neighbors depot.
That'd be fantastic.
It would be fantastic.
If ever in St. John, if you're listening, we need to get somebody on that.
It would be an incredible thing. Great opportunity for internships and skills training and everything.
Sure. And there's so much to be learned about that. I mean, as outside of the nonprofit world, I mean, as you can look about inventory, you can talk about, product movement, distribution,
right.
Money, finances. I mean, there's a lot of hidden gems that you don't realize that you,
right. And you're building community at the same time.
Yeah.
People will know each other. They'll learn more about the other good things going on. And it's a place of positivity, because we're all inundated with the bad news. And this is something where
come on.
This is something where people can take an active step to make things better and make this community really thrive.
Absolutely. And again, you can donate. goodneighborsgroup.org is where you want to go. But I want to thank you so much, Julie Shay, for not only being here today in the sun at Rise Up Coffee, but to, for having the foresight for the,
gumption.
I don't know, weird dream or whatever it was.
The gumption.
The gumption to found this. And I think it's just a great asset,
as
are many of them to the community in Anne Arundel County.
They really are.
So, but thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks to the generous people in the community who want to help.
Thanks for listening to this week's Local Business Spotlight. Please make sure to visit eyeonannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinion. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you all the day's local news direct to your phone, tablet, or computer in about 10 minutes. It comes to you at 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.